Hey guys, what's going on? It's Savius again. Back with another analysis video of a boss fight in Heroic Blackrock Foundry. This time it is the second boss in the instance, Oregorger. This boss is relatively simple. It's a two-phase fight with a handful of mechanics to worry about. I'm going to jump right into it. You'll see that we start stacked up back here in the corner with the range, and the reason for this is to handle one of the mechanics in the first phase, which is Wretched Blackrock. Basically, he's expelling some ore that he's eaten, and if you are hit by that, you take a bit of damage. You can notice that there, and then it leaves a little void zone. So you want your range to stack up and move as a unit in order to control the positioning of that so that you don't run out of space. The melee also have a mechanic not exactly the same as that, and you can't see it because I'm not paying too much attention to the melee. Obviously, I'm not in melee range. But I think it happens alongside Wretched Blackrock, where a crystal will spawn, or an ore crystal will spawn, and it explodes after a few seconds, and if the melee get hit by that, they get stunned, and obviously they take a bit of damage. You see the other main mechanic, which I just use a Tranquility for, is called Arcane Torrent, or Acid Torrent, sorry. And what this is it's an ability that it hits the tank with. It does physical damage to the tank, but then it does AoE damage, nature damage to the rest of the raid based on the tank's mitigation. So if the tank is able to use a cooldown, or the healers are able to use an external cooldown for the tank, you can actually reduce the damage that Arcane or Acid Torrent does to the raid. The other thing that he tries to cast is Blackrock Barrage. It's a little AoE. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it does need to be interrupted. And the reason that it needs to be interrupted is because for every ability that he uses, he loses 5 mana. And if he doesn't successfully cast the Blackrock Barrage, then obviously he doesn't use any mana on it, and that helps to keep him in this first phase. Phase 1 is where you're going to get the most of your DPS done on the boss. This is phase 2, where he starts to do something called Rolling Fury. I just call it the rollout phase. The most dangerous part of this phase is people getting run over. In many cases, if you get run over, you will die instantly. As you can see, every time he crashes into a wall, he does raid-wide damage, but it's not really that high. It's easily healable. You don't need a cooldown for it. Most of the people that you see that are going to die here are dying because they're getting run over by the boss. If you actually chase the boss, if you stay behind him, if you go where he came from, it's impossible to get run over because he can't go backwards. So, let's see, you use the intersections. Like right here, he's just either going to go this way or he's going to go this way. People can just follow him, right? Or you can stand like just outside of where he'll hit. So if he came in our direction, he would have hit this wall here, and then I could have just went back in this way, this direction, and just danced like that. So there are a number of ways to avoid getting run over. But the main thing to realize is that if you're behind him, if you go where he came from, it's impossible for him to run you over because he can't reverse. So we're back in phase 2 again, and again we're just handling the mechanics of the fight or phase 1 again, sorry. You just handle the mechanics of the fight as they should. Melee doesn't want to stack because, like I said, when those crystals explode, it stuns everybody that gets hit by it, and then they take that damage. So you want to avoid that as best as you can. The ranged want to continue to move as a unit in a stack like we are to control the placement of these void zones. Phase 1 is where you're going to get the most of your DPS done on the boss, and I've said this already, but it's also where the highest amount of the damage is done by this boss, which is why we want to use CDs, why we want to have a Trank for it, or a Healing Tide, or Revival, whatever it is. That's why I use my CDs in this phase and not in the rollout phase. I could hold the Tree of Life for the rollout phase, but it really doesn't help that much because we're so spread out. And I don't think that phase is really that mana intensive or healing intensive. It may change in Mythic, but in Heroic, it's just not. So it's not something you need to worry about. This phase is the phase you really want to worry about surviving. And our melee are pretty good with getting the Blackrock Barrage interrupts, because like I said, if he successfully casts those, every ability he successfully casts, he uses 5 mana on. So The sooner he depletes his mana, the sooner he goes into phase 2. You don't want that. You want to keep him in phase 2 as long as possible. And you do that by catching those interrupts mainly. That's the only way realistically that you can control it. The other way to get him back into phase 2 is to just or into phase 1 is to just end phase 2 quickly. DPS these boxes very fast to open up some ore, so that you have the ore already opened so that he can roll over it. See, if we had this box destroyed, which was the first box that we should have been focused on because everyone was right here, he would have gotten ore right there. If we would have destroyed that box with the ranged, he would have rolled over that ore, and we would already be much closer to ending this phase. He'd be at about 50% mana instead of 30% mana. So your DPS just needs to be faster about destroying these boxes, especially the ranged. If this is, obviously this box here, the melee can't do anything about that. So ranged need to be aware of things like that, and they need to focus on it so that they can make sure that those boxes get opened. Aside from that, again, you just focus on surviving this phase by not getting run over, because the AoE that he does from crashing into the wall is not that much. It was 60k there. It gets stronger every time he does it, I believe. Like, I don't know if it's a 20% increase or 25% increase or something. I don't know the exact number, but it gets stronger over time. So the longer it goes on, eventually even that mechanic will become dangerous for the raid. But if you handle it properly and you end that phase as quickly as possible, you can get back into phase 1 and start DPSing the boss down. And when that's, it's pretty much just a tank and spank in the sense from that, where you just avoid a couple of mechanics. You heal through Acid Torrent, and you just move from Wretch Blackrock, and you move from the exploding crystals that comes along with that, if you're melee. And that's pretty much it. And eventually the boss will just fall over dead for you. So you'll see that happen here in a few seconds. From a personal standpoint, I think I played this fight pretty well. There's a couple of things I maybe could have done differently, specifically in how I handled the second phase, so that I didn't need to dance around that little middle area so much. I could have kept myself more localized by simply using the intersections better. But that's why we do this. It's to learn. But that's going to do it for my analysis of Heroic Oregorger. Hopefully you find some useful information in this video to help you improve your personal performance on this encounter, and to help you get this encounter down if you're still having trouble with it. So I just want to say thanks for watching, man, and good luck and have fun in your raids. And yeah, just enjoy yourselves, man, and I'm out.